What are we really hoping to get out of this lawsuit?
Yeah, well, obviously, we'd like to see the leadership of the NCAA. People like Charlie Baker, who I mentioned, has a wife who played college sports and has a daughter who played sports.
Right.
I would really like to see him say, no, what we're doing, this policy we have in place, that really is violating women, putting women in their safety in jeopardy. This is wrong and we need to turn this around. But unfortunately, I think we're dealing with a lot of weak leadership. I think we're seeing this across the board, not just within the NCAA. The people in the White House are a great example of that. The ones who are currently rewriting Title IX to make it more trans inclusive, which to me, really, at the end of the day, just means anti-woman. That's what I've learned or taken from it. But we have weak leadership at the top and it trickles down to the rest. But ultimately, we're demanding that the NCAA change its policy and start protecting its female athletes. We aren't asking for much. People are acting like the NCAA and all of these people are acting like we're asking for so much. But in fact, we're asking for the bare minimum. And if our leaders are still unwilling to do the right thing, then I suggest they resign from their jobs immediately so that we can put people in leadership who have the courage to make the right call.
Like Bill Bach, who is he was on the podcast actually a few weeks ago. He was on the NCAA board. He was a board member. He was an official who has now stepped down because of these policies. And he is actually our attorney and our lawyer who has filed suit with us. So he's incredible. He's an incredible display of leadership, of someone who has tenacity and who has grit and who has a moral compass at that. So I could not agree more. If you are someone who encourages this, or even if you are someone who stays silent as this is happening, understand you're just as complicit as the people who created and enforced these policies. And I agree. I think stepping down and resigning would be necessary, and I would argue urgent. What's your response when people say, and I hear it all the time, they look at this lawsuit and they see this as an attack on people who identify as trans?
Yeah. Well, this lawsuit is not anti-anything. I believe anti-trans. All of this anti-talk is really just a loose term they throw around to try to scare people into and really silencing people. But this lawsuit isn't about hurting anyone. In fact, it's about helping the women who have been hurt,
right,
and preventing it from happening in the future. And it's about ensuring fair and equal and safe competition, which really at the end of the day is something I believe everyone should want. At the end of the day, I believe in fairness and equal opportunity. I see what's at stake. You see what's at stake. The other girls who have gone through, they're different ways they've been impacted by this gender ideology, this trans movement. But they see what's at stake. Allowing men into women's locker rooms, allowing them into our sports is completely unacceptable. And I believe I speak for all of the girls on the lawsuit when I say we don't want to have to be filing a lawsuit. We shouldn't have to be the ones holding the NCAA accountable to the law. This shouldn't be our job because our leadership is failing us. And unfortunately, they have forced our hand. They're, like you said, they're failing in their most basic duties, and they put the responsibility in the hands of young girls and female athletes to do something about it.
And here we are. You mentioned, taking this step out, putting your neck out, really. And even with the position you're in now, working in a university administration, it's pretty terrifying. But on top of the lawsuit, what other actions have you been taking across the nation, specifically in your home state of Illinois, to really ensure that single-sex spaces are protected?
Yeah, so currently in the state of Illinois, obviously, it's a very blue state. So getting anything really passed is going to be very difficult. It's going to be a challenge, but I still think that it's worth the fight. At the end of the day, I don't think this should be a political issue. I don't think this is a left or right wing issue. It's a common sense issue, really. And so we're currently working on getting a bill introduced in the state of Illinois that's similar to the Women's Bill of Rights, that really just reaffirms legal protection afforded to women under the federal law, and really just defines the word woman. And so hopefully this bill will be successful. But again, it's worth a try. I'm working with some legislators there, some different groups. The Illinois Freedom Caucus has really been kind of spearheading this whole thing and have been really awesome. So trying to make some changes in different states, my home state. And I know you're working alongside other groups to do the same in other states, which is really awesome. But you mentioned this being interesting because my whole basically career path has been really paved with the goal of working in college athletics, really working for the NCAA, or at least the university, which is super ironic to now be suing the very organization I had my entire career been hoping for. They say don't bite the hand that feeds you, but that's just kind of what I've done. But really that hand is feeding us poison and lies. So I feel like through all of this, through all of these experiences, my life has definitely made a dramatic turn in the last year for sure.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's poison and lies is certainly what they're feeding. But yeah, you mentioned the Freedom Caucuses, who are just wonderful. The work they're doing and really exposing. You mentioned Illinois, right? It's unlikely that a bill like the Women's Bill of Rights will get passed in Illinois, but it's important to set the precedent and to get these people on record, on voting record, showing they either stand with women or they don't. And it's never been on the wrong side of history to stand with women. So what you're doing is pivotal. You have already had so much impact. What's next for you?
Well, we're obviously going to keep fighting with this lawsuit. It could be, a long process. I hope to see some good progress with it. But it's kind of like a waiting game at this point. I'm graduating in May. I'm graduating from grad school, which I'm super excited about. I'm ready to kind of make that next step and start that next chapter. I'm going to be joining this fight full time and dedicating all of my time to fighting for women and women's sports. Obviously, this is something that I felt that God has really called me to. It's not what I planned on doing, but hopefully it's not something I have to do forever, because I don't see this issue being relevant forever. I really, truly believe that truth does prevail in the end. And so hopefully this is only a short-term job. But yeah, I actually had a question for you, Riley. Obviously you have had an amazing and supportive family and husband. Louis has been truly super strong through this whole journey. I remember when you started speaking out, I had no doubt you wouldn't be a great leader in this fight, because this is exactly how you led our team. You're an amazing team captain. You led our team to a lot of success, and you taught me a lot, not just in the pool, but outside of the pool, and really helped me be the best athlete, but also person I could be. So I had no doubts when you started speaking out and kind of leading us down this path that we're on now. But what have been some things that maybe you have struggled with on this journey that maybe you haven't been able to share about?
Man, it is just, I don't know if people understand like the emotional toll that this battle takes. It's so draining because, again, we see this as something that is so black and white, so basic, yet you're fighting with people and you're having to converse with people. You're having to go to DC to sit in front of Congress to explain that men and women are different. And it just blows my mind how people don't see this the way that I see it. Again, not hateful, nothing even opinionated. It's just the fact that men and women are different. And so it really takes an emotional toll. The comments, of course, on social media, the time that's spent away from home and from my family and from, you mentioned Louis, my husband, and my dogs, and now my horse. I just got a horse. All of those things, like I want nothing more. Just like you said, I don't want to be doing this. Who in their right mind would want to be doing this? But it's necessary for people like Abigail, your younger sister. It's necessary for our future daughters. That's what's at stake here. You and I, we're done competing. It's not about you and I anymore. We're not suing the NCAA so we can compete again or so that we can get another opportunity. No way. But it's for that next generation. That's who we're fighting for, the present female athletes, even the women who came before us, who fought relentlessly for Title IX. So we could have the opportunities that we were so fortunate to have. That's what this is about. And it's worth it when you look at it from that lens. But man, it takes a toll. There are days when I don't want to get on Twitter and argue back and forth with people. There are days when I don't want to have to spend my time saying the same thing, the most basic thing, till I'm blue in the face over and over and over again. But persistence, it matters. Consistency matters. And that's what you and I have both been doing. And I imagine we will continue doing it. Another thing you and I are doing soon is we're swimming Alcatraz, which is exciting. That means we have to survive like San Francisco before we even get to the water. Hopefully we don't like step on feces or like needles. But yes. So look, I'm just like you, right? Like a smile on my face, a light heart. I stay grounded. I know the mission, and you hit the nail on the head. Playing sports, it teaches you those things. It teaches you how to set goals and work to achieve those goals. And that's what you and I are doing. So it's worth it. It's necessary. And onwards, bring it on.
I love that. I just want to say that, I think I speak for a lot of the women out there, that we appreciate you, Riley. You've been amazing and super encouraging and bold. And you've sacrificed a lot in your own life. And so we greatly appreciate it. It's definitely inspired me to speak out and kind of start down this journey as well. And so I'm happy to be alongside you, happy to be alongside fighting with you. And I know a lot of women are going to be encouraged to stand up and do the exact same thing. So thank you.
Well, and you, I just love you. And like you said, we have been training partners for forever, as next to each other in the lanes next to each other for 3 years. You're a year younger than me. So my sophomore, junior, senior year, and you make me a better person. So this is super exciting for me. It's kind of like this full circle moment where it feels like we're back on a team again. But this fight, this race seems a lot more drastic and a lot more heavy and a lot harder, which I never thought I would say there's a race harder than the 200 free, but here we are. So you're the best. I cannot appreciate you more for coming on.